Watch this.
The highest court in the state has already said the city of Boise didn't properly approve a new Northwest neighborhood. But that hasn't seemed to stop the houses from being built there. So who actually won this legal battle? It seems a lot of politicians want to get involved in the U of I's purchase of the UOP. Several senators sent a letter, and now President Biden has something to say about the school's debt, none of which seems to have changed any minds in Moscow. Yes, records are meant to be broken. But this latest one may not ever be. Base jumping in the Snake River Canyon. We hear from the man who set the record last weekend and the one who held it briefly several years ago. A several years-long dispute between the city of Boise and a neighborhood association is cruising into more confusion. Back in 2019, City Council gave the green light for a 38-acre housing development in Northwest Boise. Neighbors pushed back, citing concerns about fire coverage and safety. State law requires the city to address those concerns when making a rezoning decision, which they did, but neighbors said that wasn't good enough. And 2 weeks ago, the Idaho State Supreme Court agreed. Yet even during this legal tangle, several houses were being built, and now more construction continues. Is that legal? Well, short answer is yeah, it is. Andrew Bartline gives us an update on the Northwest Boise Neighborhood Association.
It's a victory on paper.
A Supreme Court decision says they invalidated the decision of City Council back in 2019 to rezone the planned unit development and the subdivision.
But it's less than a win.
It's moving faster.
In practice.
Faster than ever.
Despite the ruling giving the neighbors an impression, this should be put on pause.
I would tend to agree with that.
Richard Llewellyn is the president of the Northwest Neighborhood Association. He wrote an email to the city of Boise the day of the Supreme Court ruling. He requested the construction stop.
Until they can fulfill what the Supreme Court is requiring from them.
City Council chose to rezone this 38-acre plot for a 220-unit housing development in 2019. State law requires the council to provide a written statement that factually addresses concerns.
And if you don't do that, then a neighborhood, residents, the Supreme Court can't actually evaluate the rationale for your decision. So it is a necessary step.
It's a step the city didn't take, at least not properly. The state Supreme Court opinion says, quote, no findings of fact.
In order for the process to have any legitimacy, that has to be done well.
But the city disagrees. The decision to rezone was legitimate, at least enough for the project to continue forward as normal.
Just going ahead as if it never happened really doesn't seem like a good public process.
But it's endorsed by the city of Boise's public statement. The city emailed Richard September 14th, writing in part, quote, because the Supreme Court did not find fault with the public hearing process or anything else leading up to the 2019 decision, the grading and construction currently happening at the site can continue. It's echoed in court opinion, where they say the city did misstep, but the error did not prejudice the neighborhood association's rights. Therefore, these are not grounds to reverse the city council decision. But the court also gave council suggestions.
The opportunity to hold public hearings.
An update on the original hearings from back in 2019 with an entirely different mayor and an old city council. The common thread from then to now.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
Current Boise Mayor,
yes.
Lauren McLean.
It's essential for that transparency that Mayor McLean ran on 4 years ago.
But rehearing the concerns they failed to address in the first place is not required.
They seem to be defaulting to this kind of the same attitude that the Supreme Court called them out on.
But it's a winning attitude. Resubmit the document with a little more effort does make it a win for the city on paper.
There's hardly anybody working at the city anymore in the planning department that was working there in 2019. So a lot of what was agreed upon has been forgotten already.
The city of Boise did not respond to us at all when we originally ran this story 2 weeks ago. We went with no response till today, and they declined an interview, but the city did submit a statement to us. It is the exact same 4-sentence statement word for word, that the city gave the neighborhood association a week prior to today. As for the steps forward, Brian, the city is waiting on an order from a district court. That's what the Supreme Court said. We're going to push this back to the district court. They need to give them an order to resubmit this documentation.
Okay.
The city, in the meantime, says we're working on that. Our legal team is ensuring that we're getting everything in line that the Supreme Court says we need to do, which by the word of the law is, here are the complaints from the neighborhood association, the people that live there. You need to factually address those.
I may be simplifying this, but to me it sounds like, okay, so as a parent, it's like saying yes to your child, what you do is wrong, but not enough to ground you for this weekend. You can still go out and go out with your friends.
You just described what I was hoping somebody else could describe to me earlier today, because that's essentially what it is your due process rights were violated.
Yeah.
However, you weren't prejudiced in the process. Therefore, we don't care enough to do anything about it. Just do the paperwork correctly this time. Well, the neighborhood association says, we want to have a conversation. It seems that the city says that conversation's over.
Yeah, well, the story is not over yet. We'll see what happens. All right, thanks, Andrew. All right, earlier this week, we talked about the University of Idaho's response to 3 U.S. senators urging the school to walk away from its plan to buy the University of Phoenix. One of the reasons Senators Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, Richard Durbin of Illinois, and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts told U of I this deal would hamper them financially, well, because they'd be saddled with the online for-profit school's boatload of student debt that was out there. Idaho's response was twofold. We aren't buying University of Phoenix, actually a nonprofit we've created is, technically, and that debt, well, that should be taken care of by the $200 million UOP has in its account. And besides, what debt? Just today, we learned the next domino has fallen, with the Biden administration forgiving $37 million in student debt owed by more than 1,200 University of Phoenix students. The reason? Well, the school lied to these students and defrauded these students, saying they had partnerships with Fortune 500 companies and thousands of corporations, which would make this a pipeline to a career, but no such pipeline existed. So will that loan discharge fall on the U of I now, like it did with the University of Arizona when they bought Ashford University? U of I, on their website and in the letter responding to the trio of solicitous senators, they said, see the part about the $200 million. But they also said this: these allegations do not reflect University of Phoenix as we know today. We value the students' focus and vision University of Phoenix has today and stand by our commitment to affiliate. Well, police are looking for a missing woman in Boise. West Nile claims a victim in southwestern Idaho. And in a place we usually watch for water, there's now a fire burning near Lucky Peak. Jude Binkley has the rest of the 411 from around the 208.
Police are looking for a missing Boise woman. The Ada County Sheriff's Office says 29-year-old Bridget Salinas was last seen near her home in the Victory Road Trabuco Avenue neighborhood in South Boise late yesterday morning. They say she has the mental capacity of a young person. If you have any information, call Ada County Dispatch as soon as possible. A man has died after being infected by West Nile virus in Owyhee County. The Idaho Department of Health and Welfare says he died last month. This is the first death caused by the virus in Idaho. Health and Welfare says he was one of 5 people who have been infected in the state and the only one in Owyhee County. West Nile virus is typically passed on by mosquitoes, and it can take up to 2 weeks for symptoms to start showing. Crews are working to contain a fire burning near Lucky Peak. The Bonneville fire was discovered just after 6 this morning, about 5 miles southeast of Boise. So far, it has burned about 30 acres and mainly grass and vegetation. Boise Fire says right now there are no traffic concerns. The fire is expected to be contained by 6 o'clock tonight. The cause of the fire is still under investigation.
One-upsmanship is kind of the foundation of a competitive society, especially when that one-upsmanship involves a lot of ups and downs. The Prime Bridge in Twin Falls is the only place in America where base jumping is allowed year-round, which is why it's become the landing spot for a lot of thrill seekers. Over the years, a lot of people have been keeping tabs on who can do it the most in a limited amount of time. We followed this battle for years, and a new chapter was just recently written, this week, by the way, by a new character.
So I attempted most human-powered base jumps in 24 hours off the Prime Bridge here in Twin Falls, Idaho.
You need the legs to jump, of course. But the human power of the legs is best tested on the 486-foot climb back to the top after every single jump.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, there it is. The record before was 64. My goal was 100. I started at 7 p.m. on Friday. The first 20 jumps or so were kind of easy sailing, just kind of enjoying it.
The human body does have limits, and those are tested as the marathon goes on. Jumping, soaring, landing, and climbing.
I hit kind of a wall around 30 jumps or so. Once I started to hurt, then the bike ride out to the middle of the bridge and sailing down was kind of the recovery. So I got to rest during that little time. Around 60 jumps or so, I hit another wall. And basically, hitting a wall is just really struggling to get up the mountain.
The previous record of 60-some jumps was a blip on the radar. Woohoo! Cox was concentrated on the century mark.
I didn't really care much about number 65 or whatever. Yeah, I jumped with a unicycle on that jump. I don't know why, I just thought it'd be fun. The rest of it's kind of a blur. I don't remember a lot of what happened. I just remember that I really wanted it and that I was gonna push my body to the limits. I just want to say thank you for all the support. I couldn't have done it without all of my family and friends. It was amazing to see everybody come together. There were multiple people that stayed up 24 hours just like I did.
What was the last jump like?
It was very emotional. I had lots of family and friends there helping me like push through, and just that last jump was awesome because I knew it was over and I didn't have to keep pushing myself. And yeah, it was just super relieving, and it was awesome. The final count was 102. It was crazy, but it was fun.
It's absolutely incredible just to watch that. And I did want to note to you that Jonathan was doing this for a great cause, generating donations for the Twin Falls Search and Rescue Team, as well as the Special Operations Rescue Team in the Magic Valley. But Brian, I want to touch on this. We talked about, you know, the climb out of the canyon there. So it's about a 500-foot climb. So if you take a look at the height of Mount Everest, about 30,000 feet, if you add up all the times he climbed up over a 24-hour period, he basically did Everest 1.5 times. Ooh, so it's amazing.
Exactly, with no oxygen.
No oxygen. And I know sometimes when we run stories like this, there's a lot of common questions about, was he packing his own chute? He didn't have to pack his own chute.
No, that's required. You need some help in this. There's a lot. That's why I thanked a lot of people that did this. And by the way, the actual record for doing base jumps off the Prime Bridge is actually 201, but that guy had a crane lift him out of the canyon, put him back on top, so it's not quite the same thing. This was human-powered.
Human-powered.
102 times.
I did ask him at the end of our interview, I asked, you know, how'd you sleep the next day? He goes, fantastic.
I bet. I bet. Couldn't feel his legs 2 days later either. No. Okay, so that record that John obliterated last weekend was once held by Twin Falls' own Miles Dasher. We caught up with Miles, barely, while he was in the middle of his 24-hour base jumping marathon and trying to break what was then a record of just 61. Well, Miles finished with 64 back in June of 2017. It was broken 3 months later by Danny Whelan from Colorado. So we thought we would check in with Miles today to find out how he feels about his place on this list of people that have done this. Well, dropping down one spot. Well, Miles told us the base jumping crowd is a tight-knit one. Sure, there's competition within it, but there's also camaraderie. So he has nothing but respect for what John did.
And what John did was nothing short of amazing. Like, I can't even imagine hiking that far.
I'm proud of him. I think it's an awesome job to do.
But it isn't an easy one.
Oh, yeah. I did 64 6 years ago, and he just put that record to bed right there.
He said there were 2 times when he hit the wall during this.
Mm-hmm.
Did that happen to you? And what's that like?
Yeah, you hit the layer of where your body just wants to shut down and stop. I would do a sock change some pair of socks, and do a leg massage, and then all of a sudden I felt like brand new again.
Need to beat it.
Yeah, I think I hit the wall like 4 or 5 times, when I was doing it, and but yeah, he only hit a couple of them. That's pretty impressive, because the rate of hiking that he was doing was just. He was doing your fastest hike on all of them. He was doing laps out of the canyon in 8 minutes, which is like unheard of. And yeah, I'm just amazed that he kept it together that long and conquered it.
See ya. Yeah.
When was the last time you jumped from the prime?
Yesterday afternoon. Yeah. Did a 2-way with Kyle Miller. Did double gainers side by side. It was pretty fun.
Okay, so it's the last time we spoke with you back in 2017. You've been pretty busy. And one thing that you've been doing, a lot of people might recognize if they went to the theater this summer.
This is far and away the most dangerous thing we've ever attempted.
Amazing opportunity of a lifetime to work with Tom Cruise and help coach him for Mission Impossible, for Dead Reckoning Part 1.
A year of base training, advanced skydive training, a lot of canopy skills, a lot of tracking.
Tom Cruise, he's an amazing individual. You tell him something and he just locks it in. His sense of spatial awareness, he's the most aware person I've ever met.
He just pumped it up like you couldn't even believe, and did 7 motorcycle jumps with a base parachute. He did it 7 times in a row and acted the whole time. And he did it flawlessly each time. And
the only things you really have to avoid while doing a stunt like this is serious injury or death. Here we go.
But we basically did another 500 jumps with Tom Cruise to get him pumped up to a level that was ready for him to ride a motorcycle off of a cliff and just go flying out into space and fly and land a parachute. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Pretty amazing if you saw that in the theater take place. By the way, Tom Cruise survived, did it very well, as he said. Miles said he missed most of John's jumps last weekend. He was at the Boise State game cheering on the Broncos. Well, actually, he was cheering on his daughter, who was cheering on the Broncos, who is a member of the Boise State Spirit Squad, and of course, she's a Flyer. Miles did make it back, though, to Twin in time to see John complete the record at 102. After several years of back and forth between Miles and Danny Whelan for the record, I did ask Miles if he had 103 somewhere in him to take it from John Cox. Miles said, nope, John can keep that one.
If you were out and about early today and you felt a chill in the air, you were not wrong. These were the lows from this morning. Nampa and Mountain Home dipped into the upper 30s before sunrise this morning. You want to feel just a touch warmer, though. Check out Stanley down at 23 early this morning. In McCall, you hit 29. So yes, cool air definitely in play, and we're not done yet. As far as the daytime high temperatures go, we have our coolest day yet to come. We're at 70 right now in Boise. It looks gorgeous out there, so blue skies and sunshine. However, we also have a very brisk, blustery northwest wind that is blowing right now, anywhere from 17 to 20 plus miles per hour across the Treasure Valley. Mountains as well getting some of that wind, and that will likely stick with us throughout the evening. So if you have outdoor plans, as the sun starts setting, it is going to feel pretty chilly out there. So I'd grab the extra layer or two as you're headed out and about tonight. Some storms have been firing off in south central Idaho and southeastern Idaho. We've been dry and mostly sunny for the Treasure Valley. Here's the main piece of that system centered right now over the Washington-Oregon border. It'll continue trekking south today and then to the east over the next couple of days, and it will bring our coldest air, like I said, in tomorrow. So overnight we'll stay clear, dropping down to about 43 degrees or so tomorrow morning, but a high temperature for Boise tomorrow of just 63 degrees. Can you believe we were at 93 degrees 5 days ago? We're a little warmer on Friday with a slight chance of some showers early Friday morning. We kick off fall, though, with a warming trend, highs back into the 80s, in fact, by Monday.
Well, they don't call it the city of trees for nothing, which means a lot of raking during the fall. Boise Parks and Recreation maintains more than 90 parks across the city. Top of that, about 210 miles of ridge to rivers trails in the foothills. You got the Boise River Greenbelt, thousands of other open acres of space. More than half of those parks, they have playgrounds in them, which makes them a perfect place for kids and families. So to encourage people to get out and explore all of the parks Department released the Boise Park Playground Checklist earlier this summer, showing all 56 parks. Everything from Ann Morrison to Julie Davis, Willow Lane, they got Winstead Park in there. It shows which parks have accessibility amenities and bonded rubber surfacing, all that kind of stuff. Parks and Rec says the checklists have been a hit. Families have out there tagging the agency on social media all summer as they visit all those different parks. They cross them off their checklist. It was crafted as a fun summer challenge, but it has been so well received, the city created a prize for those who check off all of them, who go out to all 56 parks. How about a custom parks water bottle? Look at that. Once you fulfill this quest, you get this bottle. And to do that, you got to fill out all of those parks, the checklist. And once you've done that, you take it to the Parks and Rec Administration office. That's at Ann Morrison Park. However, there's a catch. They don't have an unlimited number of these. So in order to get one, they won't be sold afterwards either. You have to fulfill this checklist, and you got to get out there and get it before everybody else does. Final minute of the show, enough time to share a couple of comments sent in by several of our viewers, like Larry. Larry sent this in today. It's too bad the last mayor and the current mayor didn't follow the rules with zoning prior to allowing another development. Seems Idaho has no ability to follow the law, so why have them, he asks. This one from Steve, I believe. This one is from Steve. If the University of Phoenix has $200 million in the bank, why are we, the taxpayers, on the hook for the $37 million they defrauded their students out of? Well, there's a lot more to this. In fact, there is a settlement of $191 million that the university settled back in 2019. So that's because of advertising and defrauding because of poor advertising practices. So there's a lot of money in there, But again, University of Idaho saying, we set up this nonprofit that keeps us out of this, but somehow somebody will take care of it. The new jumper guy for Twin should compete in the triathlete world championships with his ability to climb out. He's actually an ultra marathoner. That's why he has the legs to do it. We'll see you tomorrow.